We are finally back with another tier list. Today we're going to be going through all of the 2022 LCS teams and rosters, ranking them from top to bottom, putting them in S tier through F tier. This is a video that I've been really excited to make for quite some time. I know in 2021, my overall team tier list after the offseason did really well. My LEC tier list in 2022 did really well. I think it's at like 11,000 views or something right now. But to do the LCS teams, we needed TSM to actually have a roster, and they finally have that, so we can finally get into this. My plan in this video is to show the roster for each team, because some of these teams, got finalized like weeks ago at this point, since we were waiting so long for TSM, and then kind of give my thoughts and opinions, rank them from top to bottom, hopefully get your guys' thoughts and opinions as well. Remember, I love hearing your guys' opinions and your rankings and all that, and what you think about the 2022 LCS season and any of the teams, rosters, or whatever, and so do a lot of other people in the comment section, but keep it civil, keep it respectable. It's just your opinion. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't, you don't, nobody does. With that being said, let's get right into this. So I wanted to start at the bottom, work our way up from the F tier to the S tier. And for me in the F tier, it's got to be none other than Dignitas. We have the Dignitas roster here. Fate God in the top lane, River, who I actually think is kind of an exciting pickup. I'm curious to watch him play. I don't know how exactly he's going to do in the LCS, especially with this roster specifically, but I think it was an interesting pickup, kind of a bigger name. We have Blue in the mid lane, which, yeah, you guys know how I feel about that. Neo in the bot, and then Biofrost support. So, to me, I have Dignitas as the F tier team here. I don't necessarily know if they're going to finish 10th place or not. If they did finish 10th, I wouldn't be shocked. If they finished like 8th or something, I wouldn't be shocked either. But they're just pissing me off because they signed Blue. I really don't get it. I did not think that Blue was good in the LEC this past season. I cannot believe that they're using an import slot on him. I can't believe he got an LCS spot. I think he is deserving of like an ERL spot or maybe an Academy spot. And like they passed up so many other, not only North American mid lane prospects, but other mid lane prospects around the world and just other players in general. There's so many like free agents out there. It makes no sense to me that you're going with a guy like Blue in the mid lane. I know that the new Dignitas head coach and Blue have some history. It seems like, some nepotism or favoritism or something like that going on there. Because I think if you just watch Blue's gameplay in 2021, there's no way that you're watching that and saying Blue deserves to be our mid laner in 2022. Now, that doesn't mean he can't bounce back. That doesn't mean, 2021 wasn't a down year like for him or whatever. But he did not earn this. He does not deserve this. Weird move by Dignitas. Also, Biofrost coming back. I don't think he was that good in 2020. Maybe, the time off is good for him. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see how this one goes. I'm not that big of a fan of Fate God either. So, good luck to Dig. But just for those weird moves, I have to put them in the F tier. Next up in the C tier, it's kind of a jumble of teams for me. I guess we can talk about CLG first, moving them up. I had them perma F tier last year. The CLG roster now is going to be, let me find them. We have CLG of Jenkins, Contracts, Palafox, Luger, and Pune. So, to me, this is an interesting team. One, I love a lot of what CLG is doing. They have new management, new coaching staff, new players. Seems like a new philosophy to the organization, which is awesome. Last year was an absolute dumpster fire. They did just about everything wrong that you possibly could. They were a 10th place LCS team. They were a 10th place Academy team. They had the Bud Light Ace controversy. They were putting out terrible content. And yeah, it just sucked. All in all, it was terrible. And their LCS team was a bunch of aging veterans. They were not building towards the future at all. And this CLG team, they are going young. They are going with a lot of prospects, and to me, it is very exciting. Jenkins, obviously stepping in for Alfari at times last year, was very exciting. He had some ups and downs. He was good. He was bad. We'll see how he does. Contract, same thing for him. He had a lot of ups and downs for EG. Cooled off a little bit in the playoffs, but for sure had high highs. He can be exciting. He can be fun. He can be interesting. A little bit more developmental. Palafox, same thing. He came in as a very hyped up prospect. He didn't have that good of a year in 2021, but Flyquest as a whole was a pretty bad team. So I don't blame all of it on Palafox. Again, it was still just kind of him getting his feet wet in the LCS. Not super excited for him, but I think he deserves another shot. We'll see how it goes for him. And then Luger and Pune in the bot lane. Luger, was very good in Academy last year. And Pune was also part of that 100 Thieves Academy team that ends up winning the championship and everything. I don't know if Pune is exactly ready for the LCS. I know a lot of people say, maybe he's 1 or 2 years away from really coming into his own and being a quality LCS support, but think it's still cool that they're going young, cool that they're giving this guy a chance. I think Luger should be pretty good. Overall, this team looks interesting. Again, I don't know if they're going to win a ton of games because there's a lot of lack of experience. There's a lot of volatile players, guys who are really high and really low, really inconsistent. But CLG's headed in the right direction, so I at least have to reward that by bumping them up to the C tier. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about Flyquest. I'm not really that excited for Flyquest, to be honest. Kumo, Jose Diodo, Takoi, or Takoi, I don't know how you say it, Johnson, and Aframu. I think reuniting Johnson and Aframu again is going to be really, really exciting. I think Aframu was actually pretty good last year. Johnson obviously was not, but I do think, he didn't get to play with the best supports and stuff last year, so it's always tough to tell for bot lanes. Like, do you blame it on the AD carries? Is it the support's fault? Is it a little bit of both? I don't know. This will be a big chance for Johnson to kind of bounce back and see if he can reignite his old flame with Aframu or not. Takoi, I don't know much about. I know he was pretty good in the ERLs. It's exciting from what it looks like. He's a very fast-paced, aggressive style mid laner who plays a lot of control mages, so I think he should do all right. I'm not expecting him to dominate or anything like that, but should be kind of interesting. We'll see how it goes. I have kind of tempered expectations for him. Jose Diodo, I think, was overrated last year. I don't really think he was that good. And then Kumo, I don't know. I've never really been that impressed or excited about Kumo. So to me, the mid and top side, not that exciting. Bot could be decent. Overall, I think Flyquest is a solid team. I think they're going to finish somewhere between 6th and 9th, somewhere in there. They'll win some games, but they'll lose a lot of games too. So I don't know. Just kind of a C-tier team for me. Next, I want to talk about Immortals, and for me, it's really hard to rank these teams. Do you think, I don't know, I'm kind of putting them in the order that I believe them to be, but also not really, because I think it's really hard to distinguish. For me, the LCS is very top-heavy. It's 5 teams, and then it's 5 teams. I think the top 5 are going to be a jumbled mess. I think the bottom 5 are going to be a jumbled mess. So at least at this point, before I've seen any of them play, it's really, really hard to differentiate between any of the teams in the bottom 5 or top 5, in my opinion. So I wouldn't argue with you too much if you have any of these teams moved around. But for Immortals, Revenge, Xerxes, Power of Evil, Wild Turtle, and Destiny. I've never been that high on Revenge. I think he's interesting. He has some skill. He has some good games. He pops off every once in a while. But again, another kind of inconsistent, just kind of meh player, in my opinion. Xerxes, I think, is going to be really, really good this year, especially paired up with Power of Evil. I think this is a very, very strong mid-jung duo for Immortals. And I think that is actually going to be something that sets them apart from a lot of these bottom 5 tier teams, is the fact that Xerxes and Power of Evil together are going to win you some amount of games. They're going to be pretty good. They have Wild Turtle, who was not very good last year. We'll see. Was it CLG holding him back, or is he maybe just past his prime? I don't really know, but I know Immortals has Arrow ready to go in Academy as well. If Wild Turtle doesn't make the cut, Arrow will hop in there. And then Destiny, who, again, kind of a meh player to me. He doesn't really get me too excited. I don't think he's that great. He's fine. He's not terrible, but overall, just kind of a, Immortals roster. I'm not really going to be tuning in, going out of my way to tune into too many Immortals games. And again, I expect them to be somewhere in the 5th to 8th category, something like that. Next up, Golden Guardians. I actually think this team is very interesting, maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way. Licorice and Blaze Olive, I think, are very, very strong solo laners. That is what I think sets apart Golden Guardians from the rest of the bottom 5 tier teams. Licorice and Blaze Olive, I think, are very, very good. And I think at their best, they can be a top 5 top laner and a top 5 mid laner. So they have, some top tier players, potentially. Licorice, inconsistent, and Blaze Olive, still new and inconsistent as well. We'll see how it goes. Pride Stalker is a huge question mark here, coming over from, the ERLs. We will see how he does. I'm not super excited. I'm definitely, a little bit questionable. Is he going to be better than Sven Skaren would have been for this team or something like that? I don't know exactly. Lost, I actually think, is a really, really big pickup for GGS. I think Lost wasn't good on TSM, but I don't think he was, not LCS caliber. I think TSM was a team that was trying to compete for titles and trying to go get out of groups at Worlds and all this stuff. And maybe Lost wasn't ready for all of that, but I think he's definitely ready to play on a team like Golden Guardians and help him win some LCS games. Lost won a lot of games last year. Obviously, his team helped him out a ton. He got to play with really, really great players, but I still think Lost showed some signs of, being a good player. Then you have Ole as support. I have no idea what to make of that. I have no idea how he's going to come back. It seems like he's motivated. It seems like he's ready to go. But, that move is just very, very strange for me. Who knows how that could go. So this team could be very, very volatile. 2 volatile solo laners in Licorice and Blaze Olive, and a bunch of question marks in Pride Stalker, Lost, and Ole. But I'm interested. I will probably watch some Golden Guardians games. They've been pretty good. I think their coaching staff is really, really good. And we'll have to see how that goes. Now getting into the top 5 teams again, I think there's a big gap here. I would even go as far as to call like this D tier maybe with like A, SAB, and then DF, because like I think C tier is just a gap between these teams, but I'll just leave it because it's what I always do. Next, I'm going with TSM. Obviously, we've heard a lot about the TSM roster recently. Huni, Spica, Kido, Tactical, and Shenny. I still have to learn how to say these guys' names and everything, but we'll definitely learn over the course of the year. TSM is weird to me. They're going to be super, super volatile. If these moves work out, TSM could be a top team. But if these moves don't work out, or if these moves are just developmental moves that are going to take time, which is also very, very possible. Just because they got good developmental players does not mean that they're going to pan out in their very, very first split or just hit the ball rolling or whatever. But definitely some question marks about this team. Huni, to me, super volatile. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's a top laner. He got third team all LCS Pro in summer split, but that was a split where Alfari didn't play a bunch and Licorice, sucked at the beginning of the year, was really, really good at the end of the year. I think there's a legitimate case that, and I've said this many times before, people are trying to say Huni's top 3 because he got that third team All-Pro. But, no, if you count Alfari in there, then he's already 4th, and then you start mixing in some other guys like Someday and Licorice and stuff. Huni could be 4th, 5th, 6th best top laner. He's just a very regular LCS player to me. I'm not excited for Huni in the top lane. Spica, defending MVP, love him. He's awesome. Think he's going to do great. How well is he going to play with Kido? I don't know. We'll see. Apparently, this guy's really fast-paced, aggressive, LPL-style mid laner. But we hadn't really heard of him before. He's not a hyped-up prospect. Nobody, that really we've been hearing was like, oh, this guy's up next. Oh, you got to get this guy. Oh, this guy's going to be a beast. So we're going to have to trust TSM on this one, which sometimes works out and definitely sometimes does not. Tactical, I'm really excited for this pickup for TSM. I think he's going to be great for TSM, but again, he is still a question mark. He has played his whole career with Core JJ as his support. Now, going to play with somebody that's not Core JJ might expose some more flaws in him. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And then Shenny, everything I'm hearing about this guy is really, really great. A lot of people are very, very hyped up for this guy. This is kind of the big pickup for TSM in my opinion. But I think Huni, Kido, I don't know. I'm not super, super hyped up. And also, I think there's some really, really good teams in the LCS this year. So I think having TSM down here is just because there's so many question marks. There's too many question marks. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. Next up, I have Evil Geniuses. And again, if you have TSM above EG or EG above TSM, I wouldn't really complain too much. But I think these are the 4th and 5th best teams in the LCS, at least going into the season for sure. EG, obviously, with Impact, Inspired, Jojo Pune, Danny, and Vulcan. That's a good team. That is a good team. Impact and Vulcan are absolute monsters. We've seen them for a while in the LCS. We know they're going to be beasts. Danny was a breakout star last year. If he keeps developing and is able to improve on what he was doing last season, he is going to be a monster. Inspired was an MVP in the LEC last year, which everyone considers a better league than the LCS, so he should come in and be a beast. That's a huge pickup. And then you have Jojo Pune in the mid lane, who people are saying is a once-in-a-lifetime North American prospect, and North American prospect like we have never seen before. And look at all those moves. Who on EG is a bad move? Who on EG is a bad player? And then compare that to TSM, where you have all these question marks and all these players who could potentially be bad. I have to put EG above them. I have to have TSM 5 and EG 4. And I think, if one of these teams was to finish top 3 and to make it to Worlds, I would favor EG at this point. That's really where I'm at. So that's kind of what I think there. Next up, getting into the A tier, I have Cloud9. We know that, a lot of teams are going developmental. You have TSM building for the future, Kido, Shenyi, maybe those guys take a little bit longer. Maybe it takes a year or two. EG, same thing. Maybe Jojo Pune and Danny take a year or two to really fully come into their own. Cloud9 is also going a little bit developmental. They have some young players, but Cloud9 is going a little bit more to win now as well. Berserker, from everything we're hearing, that this guy is a monster. Yes, he is a young player. Yes, he could still develop into the future and get better. But I think the expectations are like a guy like Gumayusi, how he came into the LCK, dominated, came into the world stage, dominated right off the bat. People have those type of expectations for Berserker right off the bat, and then they go out and get Summit as well, who is seen as like a world-class top laner. He's going to come in and be a beast in the LCS. Now, there are some question marks. How good of a coach is LS going to be? How consistent is Blabber going to be? Are we going to get MVP Blabber or are we going to get Crabber? You never really know. And who's the support going to be? Is it going to be Winsome or Isles? Are either one of those guys going to be good? How's the role swap going to go for Fudge? There's a lot of questions, but this team has a ton of talent. Fudge, even if he's not a great mid laner, he's a talented player. I think he's going to do well. Blabber, very talented. Summit, Berserker. I have questions about the support. I have questions about how communication and everything's going to work, but I think by the end of the year, Cloud9 will be a top 3 team in the LCS. I'm pretty confident about that, and that's where I'm at. Next up, we have 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves, one of the only teams to not make any changes in the offseason, not make any crazy changes. They have Someday, Closer, Abadage, FBI, and Huhi, and now they're actually running a 6-man roster with Tenacity. Tenacity will not be playing in Academy. He's going to be scrimming and playing with the main team, which is really, really cool, and I'm hyped up and excited for. This team is the defending champs, but again, they did win that championship coming out of the losers bracket. I think there's a little bit of an asterisk surrounding that. I don't think they were the best team in the LCS last year. I don't think they're going to be the best team in the LCS this year, but I think there is something to be said about continuity, and I think this team is really, really good. They went to Worlds and won 3 games. They weren't able to get out of groups, but coming back, especially with the same roster and maybe even adding a little bit of youth and talent and tenacity, this team's going to be good. Awesome coaching staff with Reaper. They added Mithy. They have a really, really good setup. They have an awesome facility. 100 Thieves is doing a lot of stuff right. I think they're going to bounce back strong in 2022. Not bounce back, just be strong yet again in 2022. But then finally, in the S tier, I think this is the best team in the LCS for sure, at least on paper going into the season. This team is absolutely loaded. This team went 3-3 in groups last year. Had a tiebreaker, just didn't make it out, and I think they got better in the offseason. I do think Bjergsen is going to be an upgrade over Jensen. I do think Hansama is a very, very clear upgrade over Tactical. Maybe they downgrade in the top lane with Bwipo and Alfari. Bwipo has a better, international track record than Alfari, but obviously Alfari at his most recent forms has probably been better than Bwipo, especially when you're looking at Bwipo 2021 spring split. But if he can, regain some of his old form, this TL team is going to be very, very scary. We're pairing up Bjergsen and Core JJ. Santorin's still there. If he can stay healthy, this team's going to be fun and exciting. The only questions are, how is Bjergsen going to be after a layoff? How's Bwipo going to be switching back to the top lane? And is Core JJ going to get his green card? Because this team has 2 imports in Hansama and Bwipo, obviously, so Core JJ needs to get that done. But I really would be pretty shocked if this is not the best team in the LCS. Now, yeah, super teams don't always work out, but I think going into the season, you have to have this team rated number 1, or you're just being really nitpicky and kind of trying to drop a hot take. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what your tier list is, or what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong in this video. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. We're trying to hit 10,000 by the end of the year. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.